health and this television station.
COVID-19 continues to impact the Bahamas and the world.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed 5 cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas.
ZNS Network is here to keep you informed on this growing pandemic.
We are in a race against time.
With team coverage, hourly updates, news, and special reports with information that is important to you. ZNS Network is your best choice for COVID-19 coverage. No other station covers the Bahamas better.
What are you doing to keep your environment safe from the coronavirus? While you stay focused on your business needs and concerns, Clear Solutions Plus keeps your environment disinfected, cleaned, and sanitized. We specialize in designing a workflow that meets our clients' unique budget, and we can handle any size business or home. Our team members are professional, and we use the latest technology. While some businesses remain open and others are closed, it is important at this time to have your business sanitized and disinfected. We also sell hand sanitizers, face masks, coveralls, and gloves. As we get through this pandemic together, let us remind each other to stay safe, clean, and sanitize. Clear Solutions Plus, located at number 83 Mont Royal Avenue, telephone number 677-3138.
You're watching the ZNS Network, the People's Station. COVID-19 continues to impact the Bahamas and the world.
The Ministry of Health has confirmed 5 cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas.
ZNS Network is here to keep you informed on this growing pandemic.
We are in a race against.
ZNS Network presents COVID-19 Update, a live press conference from the Office of the Prime Minister.
My fellow Bahamians and residents, good evening. We are making progress in our fight against the COVID-19 virus. The measures we have put in place to stem the outbreak are working. But we cannot, as a country, let down our guard. There is still much more work to be done in the weeks and months ahead. The 24-hour curfew from Monday 5 a.m. to Friday 9 p.m. will continue, as will the lockdowns from Friday 9 p.m. to Monday 5 a.m. We have to continue to wear our masks, to practice physical distancing, as well as to wash our hands thoroughly along with other measures. To date, there remain 83 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas. This includes 67 in New Providence, 7 in Grand Bahama, 8 in Bimini, and 1 in Cat Key. The Ministry of Health has reported no confirmed cases of COVID-19 today. Because of the progress we are making, I am pleased to announce that effective tomorrow, May the 4th, we will move to phase 1B in the reopening of our economy. I repeat, effective tomorrow, May 4th, we will advance to phase 1B as we seek to open and restart our economy. This portion of phase 1 focuses on delivery, curbside service, and construction. This phased reopening is aimed at striking the right balance between permitting some further level of commerce to resume while still maintaining a vigilant national position promoting physical distancing and reinforcing the health and safety precautions necessary to mitigate community spread of COVID-19. The objective of the first phase is to stimulate businesses through economic activity and to meet needs important to the population during this health crisis. Starting tomorrow, businesses that can provide goods and services through delivery and curbside pickup will be able to do so Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. Construction on New Providence and Grand Bahama will be allowed to operate from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. Home and hardware stores, plant nurseries, and auto parts stores may expand to 5-day online delivery and curbside services if they have the capacity. This is, in addition to the in-store days, those stores are currently allowed to operate. For example, home and hardware stores that are allowed to offer in-store services on Monday and Fridays may now offer delivery and curbside services Monday, Tuesday, and Thursday. They may also offer delivery and curbside services during their in-store operating hours. Businesses must be able to demonstrate existing capabilities to take orders by phone or online and acknowledgement of receipt. Businesses should use gloves and other protocols in handling and delivery of goods and interactions with customers. Proper physical distancing and sanitizing measures must be practiced at all times. I am pleased to announce that construction will now be permitted on New Providence and Grand Bahama with industry protocols and that cover transportation, the use of personal protective equipment, physical distancing, cleaning, and disinfecting protective measures and others. These protocols were established in conjunction with the Bahamas Chamber of Commerce and the Bahamas Construction Association. I'm also pleased to announce that those professional athletes who want to continue their trade can do so under Phase 1B. Let me remind you of the health guidelines utilized to determine the transition from one phase to the next. The criteria include the number of new cases over specified time intervals together with model predictions, the capacity of the health system to respond to increased number of cases, the number and dispersion of contacts of confirmed cases throughout our archipelago, identification of vulnerabilities in congregate facilities such as Her Majesty's Prison and long-stay facilities, and adhering to existing restrictions. These criteria are in tandem with the strengthening of our healthcare capacity, the establishment of the South Beach Clinic, training and cross-training of healthcare providers, enhanced training for patient care technicians in infection control monitoring, proposed training to increase the number of certified respiratory therapists, mobile response teams to manage outbreak situations, adequate and appropriate use of protective equipment, the capacity to test those who carried the disease, and monitoring the use of research materials to mitigate morbidity and mortality in the COVID-19 and post-Dorian period. The government will regularly receive reports on these criteria as we seek to keep the level of transmission low while we gradually and safely reopen our economy. My fellow Bahamians and residents, the phased plan for reopening our economy and our islands is a guideline. We will have to be flexible in the applications of the guidelines. If advised by our health officials to do so, we may have to go back to certain restrictions. If we are making more progress, we may be able to ease certain restrictions quicker. The opening of various family islands was set to begin in phase 2. But we have decided to gradually reopen our family islands by zone starting tomorrow in our southern Bahamas. The following islands will be able to resume normal commercial activity effective Monday, May the 4th. These islands are as follows: Ragged Island, Rum Key, Maguana, Inagua, Crooked Island, Auckland, and Long Key. Physical distancing and other safety protocols must be practiced and will be enforced at all times. Border restrictions, as it relates to travel of passengers in the family islands, remain, except for emergency and other circumstances which must be approved by the Civil Aviation Authority. However, residents of New Providence who are currently in the islands just mentioned will be allowed to return to New Providence. Curfew and lockdown measures remain in effect for all family islands, including zones that have returned to normal commercial activity. Using guidelines provided by health officials, other islands will be allowed to resume commercial activity at the appropriate time. My fellow Bahamians and residents, there was an incident last week involving some residents who flew by private aircraft to New Providence and brought COVID-19 test kits with them. The protocol for allowing Bahamians and legal residents to enter the country at this time was breached last week. I have now been informed that instead of the stated 2 permanent residents who were allowed to disembark and remain in the country, that it was actually 6 permanent residents who are all related. All of these individuals have tested negative for COVID-19 and will remain under a mandatory 14-day quarantine. The Minister of Health will issue a statement on this tomorrow. Let me be clear about the protocol for Bahamians and residents wishing to return to the Bahamas. Citizens and legal residents of the Bahamas, the latter with a home in the Bahamas, will be permitted entry into the Bahamas via travel to New Providence or Grand Bahama, unless approved otherwise via air. Those individuals in these categories are to make contact with the nearest Bahamas embassy or consulate to them. Aircrafts and airlines proposing to carry such individuals are required to make flight applications in the normal course to the Department of Civil Aviation. Each person will be required to obtain a RT-PCR COVID-19 molecular diagnostic test from an accredited lab prior to returning, unless otherwise approved to have the test administered upon arrival. As some individuals returning from Florida have indicated, they are having a difficult time in obtaining this test and are having difficulty in being facilitated. I want to assure them that the government will facilitate them obtaining this test before departure to the Bahamas. The test results identifying particulars and contact information of each returning individual will be submitted to the Office of the Chief Medical Officer of the Ministry of Health. And all those returning will be required to be quarantined for 14 days in a government quarantine facility or self-quarantine. They will also be subject to mandatory quarantine verification monitoring by the Ministry of Health. My fellow Bahamians and residents, as I announced in the House of Assembly this past Monday, the government has made arrangements for the return of hundreds of Bahamians who have been stranded in the United States for some time. It is expected that they will begin arriving to New Providence by this weekend. For this group of Bahamians returning from the United States on the commercial aircraft, these individuals will have the option of self-quarantine at home or being quarantined in the facility provided by the government. Individuals in quarantine at home or in the government facility must adhere to the strict protocols established by health officials. And those who break quarantine or violate the quarantine order will face a fine of $20,000 or 5 years imprisonment, or both. My fellow Bahamians and residents, the National Food Committee is making preparations to ensure fair and adequate food distribution for all Bahamians and residents. To date, there are 88 NGOs and private sector entities involved in the national food effort who have provided information for a national survey. Responses have come from Grand Bahama, New Providence, Abaco, Eleuthera, Exuma, Andros, Cat Island, Acklins, Long Island, San Salvador, Berry Islands, Bimini, Crooked Island, Mayaguana, and Inagua. A national database is in development. The database will allow any individual in need to register with 3 clarifying locations references, including island constituency and settlement or residential community. The Food Committee is in discussion with Samaritan's Purse, who is offering to seek international support from World Food Program and other international partners to underwrite a voucher program for people in need in Abaco and in Grand Bahama. The committee is carrying out a capacity analysis of the NGOs and PSEs for a 3-month window to better understand where we are and what national capacity looks like. The estimate is that the collective cost to these entities to be nearly $250,000 per week, which I wish to acknowledge with gratitude. The committee will, over the coming days and weeks, provide more details on the structure of the program and how the food will be distributed. I once again thank the members of the committee for their spirit of patriotism and community service. That is what solidarity and national unity looks like. My fellow Bahamians and residents, early in the fight against COVID-19, the Ministry of Health advised that as a key strategy to reduce transmission, schools should be closed. I advised the Minister of Education of this decision, and therefore, schools were ordered closed on Monday, March 16th, 2020. To continue the education of students in the government-operated school systems, the Ministry of Education enhanced the development of the virtual learning school that was launched in September 2019 following Hurricane Dorian. The enhancement of the virtual learning required the development and expansion of ICT infrastructure to host the virtual learning activities and to train teachers and staff. Within a number of days, the Department of Education was able to train in excess of 2,100 of its approximately 3,000 teachers in the use of Zoom and other virtual platforms to support online teaching. Led by curriculum officers, hundreds of teachers were engaged in the process of content development. The Ministry of Education was able to commence its virtual learning platform on Monday, the 23rd of March, and added the feature of live instruction 1 week later. Registration of students to the platform continues to climb and now stands at about 41,000 public, private, and homeschooled students. While the number of registered students is commendable, the ministry is concerned about the approximately 15,000 students who are not engaged in learning at this time due to a lack of internet, devices, or both. To assist those without the available internet or devices, the ministry partnered with Cable Bahamas to launch 2 channels on Wednesday, the 15th of April, 2020, to broadcast academic content. Channel 295 was dedicated to New Providence, Grand Bahama, Abaco, and Eleuthera, while Cable 12 served the majority of the remainder of the Family Islands. I am assured also that the children on the Family Islands, which are unable to receive their channels 295 or 12, are being assisted by their parents and teachers in obtaining their instructions online. The materials now being broadcast are designed for students studying for BJC and BGCSE exams. A separate channel will be launched soon with materials for the other grades. The Ministry of Education is securing some 5,000 devices for distribution throughout our Bahamas. The first students to receive these devices will be those on the ministry's lunch feeding program, followed by others as deemed necessary. I wish to thank the Ministry of Education administrators, teachers, and staff throughout the country for their hard work during this time. The Ministry of Education is also addressing the nutritional needs of our most economically vulnerable students. Efforts were made to distribute food vouchers to the 4,300 students who ordinarily participate in the school feeding program. The ministry was happy that in the Family Islands, the collection rate was very high. Unfortunately, the collection rate in urban areas of Nassau and Freeport was not good, with only about half of the vouchers being collected. The public is advised that the Ministry of Education will engage in a second round of voucher distribution for students who were already on the school lunch program. One of the implications of online education, now that the traditional schools have been suspended, is that end-of-term and national exams such as GLAT, BJC, and BGCSE have been postponed, not canceled. I repeat, those exams have been postponed and not canceled. These exams will still take place whenever the opportunity arises to conduct them safely. For this reason, students are reminded that in order to do well on their exams, they must remain studious and disciplined in their studies. Parents are encouraged to ensure that their children develop a schedule for their schoolwork and attend to them diligently. To expand the ministry's support for students, particularly those preparing for national examinations, the Ministry of Education is in the process of re-engaging the one-on-one learning management system, a public-private tripartite partnership between the ministry and Cable and Wireless and BTC. One-on-One is a relatively new and innovative company out of Jamaica, which has offered online learning to students in countries across the English-speaking Caribbean. In the aftermath of Hurricane Dorian, thousands of Bahamian students benefited free of charge from the extra tuition opportunities afforded them by this partnership. The Minister of Education assured me that such an arrangement will further support the virtual learning platform, which his ministry has put in place, ensuring opportunities for all students in both public and private schools. In terms of reopening of schools, the public is again reminded that the Ministry of Education will be guided by the advice of the Ministry of Health and its officials. However, in the short term, matters pertaining to the continued development of learning resources, increasing access to virtual learning platform by vulnerable students, student assessment, and other logistics are being addressed. My fellow Bahamians and residents, since the very beginning of our fight against the COVID-19 virus, we have had to work in a spirit of solidarity and national unity. We must continue to work together in love and unity to protect our country and to protect each other. We have a very long and difficult road ahead to restore our health, to restore our economy, and to restore our society. We will have to rely on each other and greater self-reliance to pull through and to endure. But we will travel through this rough road together. We must do so with faith in ourselves and faith in Almighty God, who is our fortress and our strength. Let us recall during this difficult time the words of inspiration and encouragement from the song, "When the Road Seems Rough," from the legend of Sammy Swain, written by E. Clement Bethel, which I wish to paraphrase. When the road seems rough, when you've borne enough, don't cry, don't sigh, just keep on trying. This time will pass. Tomorrow's another day. Let me end with the prayer I offered for the annual United States National Prayer Breakfast in Washington, D.C., held yesterday. Lord of life, God of new beginnings, we come before you seeking wisdom and discernment. During these days of trial and challenges, we beseech you to give comfort to the dying, to the ill, and their families. We ask you, Lord, to heal the sick of heart, mind, body, and spirit. Protect all of those who minister to us on the front lines of the global pandemic, threatening the peoples and nations of the world. Grant us, Lord, the spirit of global solidarity. Grant us the gifts of kindness, humility, and compassion for all. Grant us the gift of peace in our hearts and the cessation of conflict and war. Invoke in us words and deeds of love and justice as we care for the poor, the vulnerable, and the marginalized in our lands. Just as you bring life out of death and new life abundantly, grant us, Lord, the courage, the hope, the will, and the foresight to bring new life out of this time of pain and suffering. God of new beginnings, give us the gift of a new Pentecost. Let your spirit reign in our hearts. In the lamentation of the psalmist, we plead and cry out to the Lord of life. O Lord, hear our voice. Oh, let your ears be attentive to the voice of our pleading. With deep faith in our God, the words of Isaiah chapter 41, verse 10, are our shield and our refuge. Fear not, for I am with you. Be not dismayed, for I am your God. I will strengthen you. I will help you. I will uphold you with my victorious right hand. God of new beginnings, through your spirit, may we ever be men and women of gratitude and generosity, of justice and mercy, of fortitude and faith. God of new beginnings, to thee we pray. Amen. My fellow Bahamians and residents, may God continue to bless each and every one of you. And may God bless the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Thank you and good evening.
Good afternoon, Bahamas. I'm Altaviz Munnings. You've been listening to live coverage of the Prime Minister's national address at the office of the Prime Minister in Cable Beach. The Prime Minister, in his 35-minute speech, made several announcements. He first started off noting that the measures put in place through the emergency orders and advised by the Ministry of Health are working to stop the spread of COVID-19. He noted that Phase 1B of the government's reopening of the 1B plan of the government's draft to reopen the economy will begin tomorrow. Some phases of that includes reopening of businesses as well as construction here in New Providence and Grand Bahama. He also noted that some businesses that were allowed to open just for one day out of the week will now be can open now for several days out of the week. He also stipulated that proper physical distancing and wearing masks must be implemented. He also announced that professional athletes through Phase 1B can continue their training. He also listed some health guidelines that will be implemented in order to ease the transition of the economy as well as the health sector across the nation. The Prime Minister also noted that government will continuously monitor all of the aspects of the COVID-19 plan in order to make sure that the economy reopens sufficiently. He also noted that we may have to go back to some of the restrictions that were initially implemented, even though some of the restrictions are being eased starting tomorrow. The Prime Minister also noted that several of the family islands that have been closed due to the COVID-19 plan will be able to reopen tomorrow. That includes several southern islands, including Ragged Island, Mayaguana, Long Key, and Anagua, among others. He noted, though, that borders across the country will remain closed, even though those islands in the south will be able to reopen tomorrow. The Prime Minister also announced that New Providence residents who have been living in the southern islands during the COVID-19 pandemic will be allowed to travel back to New Providence, and he maintains that lockdowns and curfews will remain for the entire country during the specified periods. The Prime Minister also commented on the controversy involving some permanent residents that came to New Providence to deliver some health equipment. He indicated that protocols allowing those individuals to come in were breached last week. The initial count of those passengers who came in was 2. The Prime Minister confirmed that there were now 6 persons who were on board that flight that came here to New Providence, and they are all related. The Prime Minister announced that those individuals were tested negative for COVID-19 and they will remain under a 14-day quarantine. He also revealed that Bahamians who are abroad who want to come home will be permitted to come to the Bahamas only through New Providence and Grand Bahama through civil aviation, with civil aviation approval. But the Prime Minister noted that each of those individuals who want to return home through New Providence or Grand Bahama must be tested. They have to take the specified test in order to come back home. And if they don't want to take the test at their place where they are right now, they can take it here in New Providence upon arrival. The Prime Minister noted that each of those tests will be submitted to the Chief Medical Officer, and those individuals will be required to either self-quarantine or quarantine in a government facility for 14 days. The Prime Minister also commented on those Bahamians who are stuck abroad, who want to return home. They will be arriving next weekend. The Prime Minister also noted that those individuals who will be returning next weekend must adhere to the strict protocols of the emergency orders, and that includes they have to stay in quarantine or be fined if they don't, $20,000 or prison terms or both. The Prime Minister also noted that recommendations from the National Food Committee have been submitted from all across the country, and he noted that a national database spearheaded by the National Food Committee is being created. He said that the committee is carrying out its work to get a better understanding of the food industry here in the Bahamas. Now, the Prime Minister also touched on education as well as virtual education. He announced that national examinations, that includes the GLAD, BGCSE, and BJCs, have been postponed but not canceled. Once again, the Prime Minister announced that the national examinations, GLAD, BJC, and BGCSE, have been postponed and not canceled. And he says that those examinations will be taken at the earliest opportunity for those students who have applied or who are required to take those examinations. The Prime Minister also touched on virtual learning, noting that some 5,000 devices will be allocated to students across the country to continue virtual learning through those electronic devices. He revealed that the first individual students who will be receiving those devices will be students of the National Food Voucher Program, pardon me. The Prime Minister also noted that a new partnership will begin to enhance virtual learning with a company out of Jamaica who will be partnering with mobile companies here. As I said, it will be in an effort to enhance virtual learning across the country. The Prime Minister also noted that the reopening of schools, as schools were closed on March 16th, to reopen the schools, education officials will be guided by advice from health officials. Now, the Prime Minister concluded that he knows this is a long and difficult road ahead, but he says that we have to rely on each other as well as greater self-reliance in order to mitigate the spread of COVID-19 across the Bahamas. We can also tell you that the Ministry of Health has released the latest dashboard And the latest dashboard indicates that there are now 83 confirmed cases of COVID-19 in the Bahamas. There remains 11 deaths, 25 recovered cases, 8 hospitalized cases, 47 active cases, and 1,391 tests have been completed. We encourage you to stay tuned to the ZNS Network for the Bahamas tonight, the weekend report that begins at 7 o'clock for a full wrap-up of the Prime Minister's national address that just completed moments ago. I'm Altaviz Munnings reporting live. We hope you stay tuned, and we'll see you at 7 o'clock. Thanks.
You've been watching a COVID-19 update press conference from the Office of the Prime Minister.
What are you doing to keep your environment safe from the coronavirus? While you stay focused on your business needs and concerns, Claire Solutions Plus keeps your environment disinfected, cleaned, and sanitized. We specialize in designing a workflow that meets our clients' unique budget, and we can handle any size business or home. Our team members are professional, and we use the latest technology. While some businesses remain open and others are closed, it is important at this time to have your business